if you are a boozer, you'll be impacted by this story for sure, because in this country we're about to have the biggest shake-up in terms of how we tax our alcohol. Rishi Sunak has been busy talking to GB News. He says it'll be good for pubs. Let's have a listen.
Centrepiece of those reforms is backing British pubs. Now that we've left the EU, we can ensure that the tax you pay for beer on draft at pubs is lower, less than the tax you pay for beer at the supermarket. Also, growing the economy by cutting taxes for small producers so they can expand and employ more people. Taken together, taken advantage of our Brexit freedoms to back British pubs.
Aside from the simplification, though, you'll acknowledge we are also seeing a 10.1% rise in alcohol duty across the board. The Wine and Spirits Trade Association says it's the biggest single rise in alcohol duty for almost half a century. How's that consistent with lowering inflation, Prime Minister?
Well, what do you make to that news? Reem, some people are saying that what he's trying to do in terms of to bolster the hospitality industry, this will perhaps have a completely different effect. Some people are saying, actually, if you want to help that industry, why don't you get rid of all alcohol duty for beverages in pubs, alcohol beverages? What do you make to it all?
No, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, there is still an across-the-board rise. I think that tax simplification is a good thing, but unfortunately, these industries are already struggling. Our local pubs and breweries are already really struggling, especially post-COVID, but also post, the smoking ban, which obviously saw about 12,000 pubs across England and Wales close. So effectively, what this
But you
means...
don't link that to the smoke. You don't think that pubs have closed because people can't smoke in them, do you?
Oh, they absolutely have.
Really?
It's at least one of the factors. Anyway, that argument has sort of come and gone. Tony Blair did that, before I could legally drink. But I think that what it's about here is looking at the fact that there's still an overall increase in the alcohol duty. Now, because there is still an overall increase, it is still going to ensure that effectively they are still struggling. I think they should scrap the alcohol duties altogether and actually allow those pubs to genuinely thrive.
So you would have no duty on any alcohol, whether that was sold in a supermarket or a pub?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd get rid of it all. I think it's unfair that the government are taxing and effectively hurting consumers as a result of it. I think that consumption taxes, we know, of course, they hurt the poor and the most vulnerable the most because they are hit hardest by paying those kind of consumption taxes. I would get rid of them entirely.
Right, I shall come back to you on that. But for now, James.
I mean, they're not enormously big changes, and he's talking about trying to support pubs. And, as we've heard just now from Reem, how many pubs have closed over the last couple of decades. So if there were some big reforms that were going to help pubs, I think, a lot of us would be in favour of that. But that doesn't really seem what this is. But just to talk about scrapping taxes on consumers, full stop, I think in general terms that's right, not to scrap them entirely, but to try to reduce them. And the government's is far too reliant on VAT relative to other taxes. But I would look at VAT, if you're looking for a tax cut that's going to help ordinary people the most, I'd look at VAT before I was looking at these sorts of...
do you mean like in pubs specifically, or right across the board?
I mean across the board. For example, I would be very happy to see an increase in taxes in wealth, for example, and to reduce taxes on VAT on consumption for things that everybody buys every day.
Why not do both? Why not cut taxes across the board, income taxes, unfreeze income tax thresholds? That will obviously help regular people and also get rid of the consumption taxes.
I was suggesting taxing wealth.
You want to increase taxes on wealth?
Yes, I would quite like to substantially increase taxes on wealth. So people's
What does that mean?
So, for example, Rishi Sunak pays a lower rate of tax than the three of us because lots of his income comes from capital gains rather than from what is technically income. In the 80s, those were equalised, so you were taxed the same. If you got income, you were taxed at the same rate, regardless of whether it was categorised as a dividend or a capital gains or an income. And I think that's a very sensible thing. So it means that people who are going out to work every day aren't paying a lower rate of tax than someone who's getting their money not from work.
I know, but that doesn't make sense because a lot of these people that are buying these assets that perhaps then go on to appreciate, they're buying those assets from post-taxed income. So someone will go to work, for example, they'll earn their money, they'll pay their income tax levels, they then risk that capital, so an investment can go up or it can go down. There's no guaranteed return on pretty much anything these days. So you risk your post-tax capital, you make a profit potentially, and then you pay the capital gains rate. Most people would say that was fair.
Absolutely. I mean, we shouldn't be disincentivizing people taking risks with their money. And I think that actually, if we want to be, we want to be encouraging investment in this country, we want to be encouraging that kind of money being spent. And if the more we tax it, the more we drive it out, the more we disincentivize that kind of money being used in the United Kingdom.
The thing is, most people actually don't think that's fair. If you look at the polling, the majority of Tory voters, as well as the supermajority of Labour and other party voters, think that income derived from wealth and income derived from work should be taxed at the same level. It's what was
But
the
isn't
case.
that about jealousy, though?
No, it's not about.
Because if people have an asset that goes up in value or an investment that goes up in value...
I don't think it's about jealousy. I think it's about common sense. You're sitting at home, you're working hard, you're paying a certain rate of tax, and Rishi Sunak is paying a lower rate of tax than you for income that he is getting. That strikes people. The reason why this particular tax I'm talking about is popular, and you could use it to fund whatever you want. We would disagree, perhaps, on what we would want to use that money to fund, but the
But you would disincentivise investments, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't think that would disincentivise.
Of course it would. I mean, Rishi Sunak would just move his money elsewhere. I mean, let's be clear about this.
Rishi Sunak is banking his income in...
Wealthy people avoid tax. And if we are going to increase it, we're just going to move the money out of the United Kingdom. They're going to pop it into a tax haven or they're going to put it elsewhere. So I want that money in this country and I want that money circulating the economy and I want to see that money creating jobs and I want to see that kind of money being we want to encourage money in this country. We don't want to be disincentivizing it.
That's why you tax assets that can't move. Yes, you can got the argument, let's say you can work remotely and you're a high income earner and you can decide, OK, when the tax rate gets up to 60%, maybe I'll go live somewhere where it's 40% and I'm earning my income. But if you're buying financial assets, those assets are in the country where you've purchased them. If you're buying property, the property is physically somewhere. You can't magically pretend it's somewhere else.
Then you disincentivise house buying in this country, disincentivise money being invested here. Of course, those assets are physically
Let me ask you this on this one particular thing, because a lot of money that people make in this day and age, I'm talking about your regular Joe, I'm not talking about your Rishi Sunaks of the world, I'm talking about your regular man or woman on the street. A lot of their wealth that they accumulate is because of the capital value, that the price of their property going up in value, their primary residence. Would you apply capital gains to that?
I wouldn't for your primary home.
Why not?
Because it's your home. So I wouldn't. And these taxes I'm talking about, you'll want to try to make it about the ordinary person on the street. That's not who I'm talking about. People who have portfolios of, let's say, 3 or 5 million more in financial assets, that's not your ordinary person on the street. That is somebody who can afford to not pay less tax as a rate of tax than your viewers at home and the three of us sitting here.
So you would kind of standardise your income tax rates to your capital gains, but only for people that are wealthy, or for all capital gains for everyone?
I would do some level of equalisation for everyone, and then I would have an additional tax on assets over a certain threshold.
So you'd increase capital gains tax on existing assets for regular people?
I would increase capital gains tax. I would increase dividends tax.
I mean, first of all, we already have the highest tax burden since the Second World War.
On the wrong people, I think we would agree. On the wrong people.
Absolutely agree. And I don't think that we should be increasing capital gains tax across the board or any other wealth taxes, of course. Fundamentally, it's about wanting to encourage investment in this country. The more we put up tax, the more we drive out that kind of incentive. We already saw with the increase in corporation tax to 25%, we saw AstraZeneca pull out a £420 million investment and pop it over to Dublin in Ireland, which has a 50% lower corporation tax. The more that we put up taxes across the board, the more we are disincentivising growth in this country. We want to be incentivising growth, we want to be incentivising investment.
How much growth have we had over the last 13 years? Corporation tax was dropped from, 28% down to 17%. There have been giveaway after giveaway to big business and to the super rich. And have we all benefited? Has it all trickled down? No. The average income in this country, average pay levels are the same as they were in 2005. Public services are crumbling. Yes, you can say the overall tax rate is high in this country, but the wrong people are being taxed.